Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Bane bringing you gaming goodness, and in this video I'd like to introduce a game that's coming to Gamefound, I think April or May of this year. Nomads Unbound, and this is being brought to us by mindsvision. The original designer is, let me just check, Marcelo Colla. Originally this game was released in Portuguese in Brazil. Another Brazilian designer, another Brazilian game. And I think back in the day, the only way that you could get this in English was a PDF. In fact, I have it right here. Boom. And this was, I think, back in 2020. And the game just stood out in terms of its artwork. When I was browsing through drive-thru, I saw this and I saw the artwork. In fact, let me show you a little bit more in terms of the artwork. The artwork was just amazing, and it grabbed my attention, as you can see here. Now, the artwork is done by Tithi Luadthong, I think a Thai designer. I think I've got some of his websites here. Go and show some love. Grand Failure 9 on Instagram. This is also the homepage where you can purchase items. You can see his artwork. Absolutely gorgeous artwork, and perfect for this game of Nomads. And like I say, the original game was just absolutely beautiful. Now, once I looked at it and seen the artwork and everything, I downloaded it, and it's a good game as well. Not just pretty, but pretty damn good game. And it's a rules light, I suppose you would call it an apocalyptic game, but it's basically where you are a nomad and you have the ability to shift realities using things called mirrors and medusae. But yes, basically it's a game focusing on your journey through different realities, trying to solve problems, trying to save the world, trying to stop evil, as it were. And your nomad can evolve and grow and make friends and allies and enemies. And it's a very, very interesting game, but a very, very simple rule set. Like a lot of games that I've been seeing coming out of Brazil, the rules are very simple in nature, but very deep in scope. But as I mentioned, the first version that I think was only available as a PDF was extremely colourful. You can see here, and it was impossible for me to print. I prefer hard copies of games, so having this as a PDF, I kind of read through it back in the day, played a session or two, really enjoyed it, but I really wanted a sort of physical copy. And now it's happening. mindsvision have got the rights to make this into a physical English copy. If we go back to the Gamefound website, so at the moment this is the preview page. Like I say, I think the project is coming April or May. You can see on the preview page a lot of information regarding the game in terms of, I mean, there is a short gameplay video. Doesn't go into a lot of detail in terms of how the game actually works. There's also a trailer which I want to show you in a second, because you can see some of the amazing artwork, and you can see here some of the components from the game that you can get. If you scroll down, there is a comment section there, and again a little bit of information in terms of what you're going to get. I think with this new version, the physical version, there will be an option to get miniatures to represent your nomads. But yes, it's definitely something that I've been looking for. In fact, previously when I've been talking with mindsvision with sort of previous games, I did actually say to them, you know what, there is one game out of Brazil that I think you guys should take a look at. And it's like, Nomads. It's this amazing looking game, amazing sort of rules-like game. And they're like, yep, we've got our eyes on it already. So what I would like to do is I would actually like to show you the trailer, which features the artwork of, again, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong, Tithi Luadthong from Thailand. Again, go to the guy's website. I'm assuming it's a guy. Go to Tithi's website. Show some love. Follow on the Instagram if you can afford it and you want it. Buy some products. But yeah, I want to show you the trailer. And then maybe after the trailer, I will do a partial playthrough of the game so you can see how it works. The gameplay video on the preview page kind of shows you somebody playing the game but doesn't go into a huge amount of detail in terms of what they're doing. So what we'll do is, after I show you the trailer, I will take my printed copy of the quick play, or this sort of quick start rules, Doomed Soul, and we'll see how the game plays. Now, I don't have access to the full rules at the moment for the new version, but I do have the old version, so I know a bit of what's coming. But yes, let me show you the trailer, which is beautiful. Right, the trailer is awesome. The artwork is absolutely amazing. So yeah, like I said, I don't think you can get the original version anymore. I don't think it's available on drive-thru anymore. But there is a quick play, or sort of a quick start version with simplified rules on drive-thru. You can download the links. I'll put the links down in the description. You can also find the links on the Gamefound page. But essentially, it's a 3-part quick play. The first part, they go by the names of Doomed Soul. Let's make these to height. The first one is sort of an intro to the basic rules. So that's Doomed Soul Part 1. Part 2, or Phase 2, go away, I don't want AI assistant, is called the Hollow Spawn. And what it is, it's a little supplement to the first part to allow you to create enemies with a bit more detail, a bit more substance. And the third part is called Phase 3, Off the Road. And again, it's a supplement to the sort of main quick play, which brings a detailed settlement into your sort of starter package. And this settlement has a few rules in terms of things you can find, things that you can look for, things you can interact with. So when you combine these all together, you have quite a nice little intro to the game. But again, it's a very simplified version with only the basic rules, very limited in terms of the tables that you can roll on to create your story. In the main game, there are a lot of options, a lot of tables. I mean, again, I'm going by what I've heard, but also in terms of what the first version was. And I think mindsvision is saying that there's going to be a lot more tables. But Doomed Soul, what we'll do is I'll quickly take you through Doomed Soul. I'm not going to go through much because it's actually designed in a way where you have to read through everything and follow the instructions. And it's kind of like a prelude, a prologue to the main game. This is kind of telling you a story where you kind of discover who you are. So, without further ado, let me show you what Doomed Soul, the quick start, is all about, because I have printed it out. And maybe you'll get a better idea and see whether it's something that you would like to back when it comes out in April or May. So, let's go and have a little play. Okay, Nomads Unbound coming to Gamefound soon as I'm recording this. Doomed Soul is the quick play that I briefly showed you in the intro just now, but it contains, or is made up of 3 parts. You've got the first download, which is goes you through the basic rules. We're going to touch upon that in this little part of the video. There is also a part 2, where it goes into Hollow Spawn in a bit more detail. These are like the creatures of the void, the demons, the things that you can encounter as you're switching realities. This gives you the ability to give them a little bit more detail, a little bit more flavor. And then the third part is called Off the Road. Again, these are all free downloads. I'll put all the links down below. But phase 3, the third part, gives you a safe settlement. A settlement that you can explore, maybe to recuperate, maybe to find items, to get help, to get clues, possibly. Basically allows you to give yourself a break during your journey. And again, it's a nice little sort of plug and play village or settlement. Now, I printed this out in a spread format, so you'll have to excuse me as I'm going through this and playing through some of this. I am going to have to arrange it like this. I can't remember if this was the only option for the quick play. I can't honestly remember if there was a page format, like a single page format, or whether it was just in this spread format. Never mind. You guys can download it. It is free. Download it. Have a look. What we're going to do in this part of the video is just start the journey. I don't want to go through too much because the ending is very interesting. Don't fast forward to the ending in terms of this quick play. It's something that's worth waiting for. So don't do the whole flip through the pages to the ending and read the ending first. Don't do that. You're going to ruin everything, okay? And in terms of this sort of playthrough, I don't want to do too much because it's written in a way that you will participate with the story. So you have to read through the pages and follow the instructions, and it's going to explain things to you step by step to help you to understand. I think what I'll do is I'll probably do the beginning part, but I really don't want to go too far in this because I don't want to spoil anything. Right, you are going to need the quick play documents. You're going to need to have somewhere to make some notes, maybe a piece of paper or a notebook. In the first edition, there were actually sort of character sheets that you could write things down, but we're going to be doing it in the way that they suggest with just a piece of paper. What else? You're going to need a pack of cards, including 2 jokers, pencil and eraser. One thing is that I noticed that it looks like for the new version, there's going to be another artist involved. You're going to have Tithi Luwadthong, again, I hope I'm saying that right, who did the artwork in the original version. And again, you can see in this quick start that there's a lot of his artwork in this as well. But I think there's going to be a second artist, possibly. It's just got here Dominic. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Dominic brings to the game as well. Now, if you are familiar with the TV show Sliders from, oh God, when was it? The 90s? I can't remember. But this is very much similar to that. You're going to be able to journey from one reality to another. Sometimes there'll be minor changes. Sometimes there'll be major changes to the world that you know. There are options in the full game in terms of how to design these new realities and these new worlds. You also have, I think, the option of going into very different realities. But for those, you have to use something called a Medusa, which is sort of like an advanced reality gate or something. The basic ones, I think, are called mirrors. But yeah, that's essentially what's going on. Right. In Doomed Soul, it gives you a little bit of a introduction set here. Introductory story set in the Nomads Unbound universe. The rules presented here are highly simplified with fewer tables, fewer combat possibilities, and a more linear narrative to understand how the system works. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So yeah, the full game is going to have a lot more tables, prompts, options that you can actually do. And it's a lot more free in terms of what you can choose to do as well. Now, again, because it's spread, I'm going to have shadows everywhere, so please excuse that. What does it say next? In this journey, you will not just observe, but actively participate as a character on a pilgrimage through an apocalyptic universe. It's a story meant to be played alone. You take on the role of the wanderer, narrating your actions, asking the system questions to reveal more information. Yeah. This game kind of focuses on questions and actions, using the cards to determine whether your questions are true or false, yes or no, and then the cards being used to tell you whether your actions are successful or not. You can also use the value of the cards to tell you the intensity of the results, whether it's a little bit wrong or maybe very, very wrong. Yeah? Now, as I mentioned just now, I'm not going to go through the whole quick play because, like I say, I want you guys to experience it, but I can help you to understand how it all works. So we'll start off by reading through, as you would. We'll start by reading through and following the instructions. I have my notebook ready. Right, here we go. Okay, it's settled. The road stretched for miles ahead. At its end, redemption awaited. I needed to get there. I had to traverse the shards of this world in my way. Every effort would be repaid, and the sacrifice would be turned into glory. At last, I would succeed. Dry trees and the skeletons of once magnificent buildings surrounded me, and the dust of destruction covered cars, bodies, and places that, in happier times, had been homes. I needed to move forward. All right, a little bit of intro narrative there to set the scene. Not a nice place. Something definitely bad has happened here, and we need to try and escape. Okay, find a chair and table. You may want to sit down because there's much to cover. In front of you now should be a sheet of paper. Well, I'm using a notebook, a pencil, an eraser, and a regular deck of cards. Here, the deck of cards will have 2 jokers as well. These need to be shuffled properly. The deck of cards that I am using is Amazing Adventurers, featuring the art of Rob Lundy. So they're kind of a steampunk-esque kind of card, but I thought out of my selection of card decks, these were the ones that were the best fit. Right, the first step on the journey is to decide who I am, or who is your character. Give me a name and an age. Okay, we can do that. So let's say that my character's name is Chris. Age, let's say 28. Write it down. Okay, then choose my trait. Okay, so one of the parts of character creation in this game is to give yourself a trait, an archetype, and a skill. And this is going to be written in the form of a sentence. And these are things that can help you to make certain questions and actions easier if it's relevant. If you turn the page, there is also a table here showing the options for the quick start. In the full game, there's a lot more options. In fact, if I remember correctly, things like the traits, the archetypes, and the skills, I'm thinking that you're free to choose whatever you want. But in this quick play, they're kind of giving you limited options just to keep things simple. So we are going to be creating our character with, back to the previous page, with a trait, an archetype, and a skill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it randomly. So we've got, okay, for the traits, we've got a choice of strong, agile, intelligent, or mindful. For archetypes, we've got investigator, killer, doctor, or thief. And for skills, proficient in hand-to-hand, proficient with firearms, street smart, and smooth talker. Right, we're going to do this randomly. Now, in Nomads Unbound, there's no dice. It's all on the cards. Let me just check and see. Okay, it's not quite on camera very well. Okay, there we go. We'll put it there. And in a lot of the tests that we're going to be using for the cards, you're going to need to know the value of the card, but also the suit of the card. Now, if you look over here, this is actually the table we'll be using in a little while to create our first event. You've got here spades, clubs, hearts, and diamonds to determine what's the event that we start with. Now, later on in the game, the events will be rolled on larger tables. But for the first one, again, it's very limited, very restricted. But it says here, spades, clubs, hearts, and diamonds. So what we're going to do is we're going to use exactly the same sequence here to determine our traits, archetypes, and skills. So our first card is spades. So spades is the first one. So our character is strong. Archetype is clubs. Clubs is the second one. A killer, a strong killer. Okay, and skill, clubs again. Second one, skilled with firearms. So Chris, our character, is a strong killer, skilled with firearms. So he's good at ranged combat. Now, what does this mean in terms of helping us in terms of playing the game? Well, if what you're attempting to do, whether it is asking a question with a very specific answer, or whether you are trying to conduct some kind of action, if being strong will help you in that challenge, then it reduces the difficulty. If being a killer helps you in that situation, again, whether you're asking a question or whether you're doing an action, again, that would allow me to reduce the difficulty by 1. You can only reduce it once. Or skilled with firearms. So these are things that you need to keep in mind whenever you're playing the game. And normally when you play the game, you can choose, but we just did it randomly because it's for the video. What else does it say here? All right, so we go into a bit of narrative again. I witnessed the greatest killing in the history of my planet. Those who survived just the first few days were lucky. They died soon after. The others got sick, but ended up dead in the weeks that followed. And then there was the rest. Those who, no one knows how, managed to last until now, more than 2 months later. It was easy to see that the world had given up. Everything died, withered away, even what wasn't alive. The buildings, the houses, the sky, they lost their shape, their color, their reason to exist. And then I learned of the Liberator. I've read the pamphlets, and I know he's there at the end of the long road, welcoming everyone with care and understanding. Okay, gotta say, I'm thinking of Stephen King's The Stand when I read this. I must find him, surrender to his salvation, and purify my cursed soul. For this, I estimate at least a 7-day journey. Moreover, it's difficult to calculate the days. At the end of the road, on the horizon, I see the sun about to touch the mountains. The moon seems frozen in front of it. It's a perpetual eclipse. And it has been so since the day everything ended, painting the world in an immutable orange, frozen in time and space. I think that's all I'm going to do in terms of reading the narrative. But on your character sheet, you then have to add a time stamp or a time value. You start at time 0. Now, every event or encounter that you come across and interact with is going to add a certain amount of time. And as it mentioned just now, there is no night, there is no day, okay? So it's a sort of generic time value. Now, when your time reaches a value of 31, your journey ends, you reach the end of the road and where you're supposed to go, and then you have to read the ending here. I'm not gonna show you any more than that because it's really interesting. So if you've made it this far, the next thing that you want to do is to actually generate the first event. And as I mentioned just now, the first event is actually a very restricted option to keep things simple. So you got basically for the first event in the quick play here, you've got four possible options depending on what card you draw. But as you pursue the journey, you're going to have much larger tables to roll on depending on what is the current time value. So yeah, let's see what our first event is going to be. So I draw a card. It is the Jack of Hearts. I find a decayed house. Okay, so I'm going to write that down here. Now we have our first scene. What's the goal of the scene? Well, I think it's going to be to investigate the house to see if there's anybody there, any food, any useful items. That's going to be the goal for this scene. Once I achieve that goal, I can then continue on my journey with the next event. Now, to achieve your objective and to play the scene, you're going to do two things. First of all is you're going to ask questions to get more information about what's happening around you, to color and provide a description of what you see and what's available. And then once you've asked some questions to further color out the situation, the scene, you then do actions in order to achieve your goal. So in this case, the first thing that I want to do maybe is to find out maybe if the door is locked. So for questions and actions, the process is the same. It's basically a closed question oracle. When you ask a question, you will then draw cards to find out whether it's yes or no, true or false. The value of the card could then be used to measure the intensity. A higher card, and it's ace lower, a higher card could mean a stronger result or a higher quantity, for example. Now, another thing is in terms of difficulty. Would that be the right word? Difficulty. When you are asking a question or when you are trying to do an action, you are going to be drawing cards, and the number of cards that you draw depends on, I think difficulty is the wrong word. It's the level of challenge, I suppose would be a better way of explaining it. In this game, there are 4 levels of challenge. The first is called trivial. If something is classed as trivial, it's kind of an automatic yes or pass. You don't draw any cards. It's kind of obvious that it's going to be a success. The next level of challenge is what's called likely. If you think that the answer to the question is very likely to be a yes, then you draw 1 card. Okay. The third level is called unlikely, so less likely to be successful. Then you draw 2 cards. And if it's very, very unlikely, you have what is called the absurd level, which is the 4th level, and you'll then draw 3 cards. Now, in each of these cases, except for trivial, the card or cards that you draw will determine whether you are successful or not in your action, or whether the question is a yes or a no answer. And here's the way that this works for questions and actions. If all the cards are black, so spades or clubs, the answer is yes, or your action is a success. If any of the cards are red, so diamonds and hearts, then the answer is no, or you have failed your task, your action. So let's say, okay, we're coming to this decayed house. The first thing I want to do is I want to check and see whether the door is locked. So that's a question. It's not an action, it's a question. I want to know, is it locked or not? So I'm thinking that a decayed house, it's been abandoned. I don't think it's that likely that it's going to be locked, to be honest. So the question I will ask is the door unlocked? So I'm thinking that it's a good chance of being a yes. So I think it's a likely result. It's likely to be unlocked. So for likely, I will draw 1 card. If it's red, the answer is no. If it's black, the answer is yes. So I draw 1 card. It's red. So the answer is no. And I ask the question, is it unlocked? So it's not unlocked. So that means it is locked. Okay. So now I would have to use an action to try and open the door since it's locked. I could try to force the door open. Now, normally things like combat will start at the unlikely level, so drawing of 2 cards. I'm thinking that opening the door by trying to force it could also be an unlikely level. You know, can I break open the door? I think it's unlikely that I will succeed, but I do have the trait of being strong. So if your trait, your archetype, or your skill is relevant to the test you're doing, whether it's a question or action, the level goes down 1. So in my case, I'm thinking that trying to break open a door is unlikely. So I would normally be drawing 2 cards. If any of them are red, I fail. But because I'm strong, I'm thinking that it's going to be slightly easier for me. So it goes from unlikely down to likely. So now I'm only drawing 1 card. If it's red, I fail. If it's black, I succeed in breaking down the door. So it is black. It's the Queen of Clubs. Now I'm just going to put that there for the moment. Actually, there was a jack earlier, wasn't there? Yeah, there was a jack earlier. Never mind. Yeah, I think I may have missed something with the jack, but I'm going to leave the queen here because something interesting is going to happen here. So I tried to, okay, so it's a locked door, ED. So I tried to break it down. So unlikely goes down to likely, and I succeed. Okay. So the door is now broken. Now, any time that a jack, a queen, or a king appears on any of the cards, something odd happens, and we have to roll on the oddity table. Not roll, sorry. Draw a card and check the oddity table. Now, what did I use the jack for? Can't remember. Failed at something, didn't I? Never mind. But yeah, anytime that a jack, a queen, or a king appears in the cards that you draw, you also have to check the oddity table because something strange is happening as well. So we do break down the door, but something odd happens in the meantime. So we have to draw another card, check the table. We get a 9 of hearts. Not concerned with the suit this time, only the number, a 9. What's this say? An enemy appears in the scene if I have any. Well, I don't have any enemies yet, but in the game, if you draw a joker, a friendly NPC could become an ally, or a hostile NPC could become an enemy. And enemies are things that can come back to haunt you, as you can see here, and cause serious problems. They could attack you, they can cause problems for you, have you arrested, all these weird and wonderful things. Same thing with allies. An ally can also sometimes come back if it says, like here, if I go to 4, an ally, if there is one, appears in the scene and they can come and help you. But as it is, we don't have any enemies at the moment, so nothing appears, nothing happens. But the Queen of Clubs did allow me to break down the door. So what do I do now? Is the scene finished? Do I continue on my journey? Well, no, because I wanted to find out if there was anybody here, if there was any food, or whether there was any items that I could use. So let's say, for example, I want to check if there is any people. Yeah? Are there any living or potentially dead people here? So are there any people here? I'm thinking, again, it's a decayed house, kind of abandoned. So I'm thinking it's unlikely. So unlikely, we draw 2 cards. I'm asking the question, is there any people here, living or dead? I could do living or dead afterwards, but I'm drawing 2 cards. If any of these are red, the answer is no. 2 red, so definitely not. I mean, you could also do it in terms of value to determine the intensity. So if these were both black, and I'm asking the question, is there anybody here? A queen would possibly give me a more intense result, and maybe there are a lot of bodies here. Yeah. But they're both red, so we do fail. However, since we got another queen, we also now have to check the oddities again. So we draw for the oddities. It's a 10. Something strange or supernatural happens in the scene. Ooh. So what's that going to be? A person, possibly? Something strange or supernatural happens in the scene. Now, again, we could roll on these tables to find out what exactly happens, or we could create our own encounter.
What else? I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave that part there. But what else is there going to be? Well as sort of searching and breaking down doors, you're also going to have combat. So you're also going to need to have some statistics that will help you with combat. And for that, you're going to have strength, protection, and life. You're going to start off with 8 strength to represent a crowbar that you're carrying. If you lose the crowbar, your strength goes down to 5. If you find other weapons, your strength can increase. I've got protection of 0 since I'm not carrying any armor in the quick play, and life starts at 20. Now, in combat, you are going to be drawing cards for actions, and you are always doing it from the perspective of your character. So you'll draw cards to make an attack. Now, normally in combat, it's always going to start off at an unlikely level. Now, with this character here, he's strong, a killer, and skilled with fireworks. So technically, I have 2 elements here, possibly 3, that can help me with combat. But however, you can only affect the difficulty once. So in my case, in this character's case, it would go from unlikely to likely if I'm attacking. You can only attack 1 enemy at a time, but then you have to defend against all opponents. And defending, again, is going to be a check in terms of the cards. And again, starts at unlikely. Now, do I have anything that will help me in terms of defending? Possibly not. So I might be then defending with 2 cards, but attacking with 1 card. All right? The more cards you have, the more chance you've got of getting red cards, which means you fail, yeah? So these are some other stats that you're going to use. Also, there is a enemy AI to determine what they're going to do as the combat progresses. Will they continue to attack? Will they run away? Will they try to defend themselves, possibly making your attack harder? So there is actually an enemy AI here. Again, I'm not going through all of these things because I want you guys to discover for yourself. Over here, it then introduces the concept of destiny and ruin. These are 2 other things you need to add to your character. Now, destiny represents points that you can use for a couple of things. First of all, you can use these to redraw cards for questions. So, for example, if you're asking a question, you're drawing 2 cards. One of them is really bad. It's red, maybe. You can use a point of destiny to redraw that card, to discard the card that you drew and to redraw another card. It is only for 1 card, yeah? Not for the whole draw. So if I'm doing an unlikely question, I'm drawing 2 cards. If one of them is red, I can use a destiny point to basically get rid of the red card, draw another one. If that is red again, I'm screwed. But each destiny point allows you to redraw 1 card. The other use of destiny points is to actually travel between realities. Destiny points can be things to trigger the mirror or the Medusae, the sort of gates between the realities. And the way that it works is that the more destiny points you spend to create that rift that you can travel through, the more changes you can make in the new reality. At least I think that's how it worked in the first edition. I'm not 100% sure how it works in the new edition because I don't have the full rules, but I think that's how it used to work, in that if you spent, for example, 3 destiny points when you tried to travel to another reality, you can actually make the new reality more different. If you use a Medusa to travel, it's more powerful than a mirror, and you can actually go to much more different places and much further away in terms of realities. However, every time that you use destiny points, you also gain ruin points. Ruin points are used when you have to roll on the oddities table. Okay? If you have ruin points and you have to roll on the oddities table, you have to basically you have to basically draw 2 cards instead of 1, and you have to take the highest value. High is bad in terms of oddities. Then you lose 1 ruin point. So, for example, if I use one destiny point to redraw a card, I will then gain one ruin point. That ruin point will then affect the next roll on the oddities table. You can regain destiny points through events and through things that you do, but the maximum is 3 that you can have. Okay. Another thing is there's another value called focus, which works similar to destiny, except focus points, again, maximum of 3. Focus points are used for redrawing cards for actions. So destiny is for questions, focus is for actions. What else is there? Again, I don't really want to read through the whole thing because it's going to ruin the story for you guys. Okay, one more thing I think I need to explain. When you're moving from one reality to another, you can change things. For example, things like maybe the reality that you're moving from is having an extremely violent hurricane or extremely violent weather. Maybe if you spend one destiny point to go to the next reality, maybe you can have it so that the hurricane's not happening. If you're spending more points, maybe you can have bigger changes. Maybe, for example, somebody that died is still alive. Yeah? They never got killed or something like that. What else? Okay, another thing is when you switch from one reality to another, you may gain the attention of, where is it? You may gain the attention of a hollow spawn, which will be part of the second quick start part here. Now, these hollow spawn, you can kind of think of them as maybe demons. They're creatures of the void that are basically trying to stop you. In the basic sort of rules here in the quick start part 1, they just give you a kind of generic sort of stat line for a hollow spawn: strength 6, protection 2, life 10. But with the second part of Doomed Soul, it actually gives you tables that you can draw cards for to make it look different, sound different, feel different, but also, for example, like you can have here, you can have a human, a creature, a tall humanoid, a strong human, with the head of a rat, with the resembling a wolf, with the characteristics of a skeleton, for example. And then you have different details. But also, hollow spawn, they may not necessarily just attack you. They may be interested in making some kind of bargain, like the Crossroads demons, making a deal with the devil kind of thing. There's a lot here, but yeah, that's basically how the game plays. So the character creation is fairly simple. There's not a lot of things that you need to keep track of. As you're playing the game, like I say, you will be evolving. Not in the quick start, but in the full game, your character will evolve. You will be able to improve your skills and your talents and get better. You're also going to come across belongings and equipment with experience. You're also going to have allies and enemies that will come back and help or come back and hinder. And then in this area here, you've got truths and clues. So truths and clues, and again, this is from the first edition. I don't think it's part of the quick start, but truths and clues used to be where you would set the rules for your current reality. And then when you went to another reality, these are the things that you could maybe change in the new reality. It sounds a lot more complex than it is, but if you're familiar with Sliders, the TV show, if you're familiar with maybe even Quantum Leap, but Quantum Leap was more about time than sort of your basic realities. But the whole concept of this game is that anything is possible. There are infinite possibilities in terms of realities that you move to, people that you interact with, events and encounters that you have to deal with. It's a very fluid, very flexible system that is simple in nature, but very wide in scope and possibilities. I like this, like I mentioned in the start. I downloaded the first edition. I really liked it. Marcelo, Collar, and mindsvision are now doing this Gamefound, coming soon at the time of recording this. And they are going to be bringing us an English version, physical version of this, and I'm very excited for it. So that is Nomads Unbound. And like I mentioned, the Doomed Soul Quick Start is free to download, so you've got nothing to lose. Yeah, go to drive-through, download it, give it a try. But the game at its core it's all about a number of scenes creating an episode. During a scene, you're trying to achieve some kind of goal or objective, and to do that, you will ask questions and you will conduct actions. And both of these things are going to be done at the whim of a deck of cards. How many cards you draw depends on the level of challenge, difficulty. I don't think those are the correct words. And then the very simple rule is if there are any red cards in the cards that you draw, then the answer is a no or it's a fail. If all the cards that you draw are black, then you succeed. The answer is yes. That's it. That's the entire core of the game. So, all the links are down below for the quick start and also for the Gamefound page. And yeah, hopefully it'll be a successful campaign, and we'll get a good English version at the end. So, guys, thank you very much for watching. Until the next video, take care, stay safe. Cheers.